You can hold me a big favor.
What favor?
I'm afraid! All right? You had that eye of the tiger, man. The edge. After this, you owe me a favor.
What favor?
Maybe we could win it back together.
BoxingPedia Log Fantasy What If number 14. Welcome to the third overall chapter in my Rocky What If series continuity. This is the first in a new trilogy of What If chapters in which I will be filling in the gaps of the Rocky saga. Way back in episode 6, we imagined Rocky's 10 title defenses before the events of Rocky 3. Today, the task is taller. Rocky 3 concludes in 1982 and Rocky 4 takes place in 1985. Rocky is still the undisputed champion during that time, despite the films claiming he retired after beating Clubber Lang. That's not how boxing works, as I'm sure you all know as well, so I'll be filling in the gap. I'd imagine Rocky Balboa's 1982 to 1985 would all go down something like this. We open up in 1982 following the aftermath of Rocky's win over James Clubber Lang. Lang and his camp vacate the premises, avoiding any interviews. The shame of defeat has eviscerated Clubber's invincibility complex. Where does he go from here? In a post-fight interview when asked if he will honor his promise to retire, Rocky answers yes, but is interrupted by Apollo, who says the Balboa camp has to think it over. Afterward, Rocky asks what that was all about. I thought we were done. Apollo says, "You don't think I put all that work into your training just for one fight, did you? There's still wars to be fought, Stallion. It's just who we are. That, and consider this a part of the favor you owe me." Rocky retorts again.
What favor?
At the end of his mandatory period, the Balboa camp announces they will welcome the challenge of the popular top contender, Jerry Cooney, who has bounced back from the career derailing he suffered at the hands of Clubber Lang back in 1979 from episode 6. This is in spite of Cooney having lost a war against the rejuvenated Larry Holmes earlier in the year. Of course, Larry won't take this sitting down. During camp, Apollo becomes even more involved in Rocky's training, as he appears to be getting into fighting shape himself. He challenges Rocky to stop Cooney sooner than Larry Holmes did, and Rocky accepts the challenge. Come fight night, Rocky is in even better shape than he was against Clubber Lang and boxes circles around Cooney before knocking him out in the 11th round to beat Apollo's challenge. Clubber Lang holds a presser announcing his retirement to the shock of all. A mellowed Lang appears at peace with his decision, citing how his new mission in life as an ambassador for Jesus Christ pulled him out of the depression he fell into after losing to Rocky. It's 1983. And Apollo challenges Rocky to defend his title twice this year. Rocky is flustered at the oomph behind the request, but accepts. Up first, the Italian Stallion takes on the young Michael Dynamite Dokes. Dokes' hand speed proves worthy, but Rocky's foot speed and power make up the difference, as Dokes is ultimately stopped in the 10th. On the undercard, Larry Holmes engaged Tim Witherspoon in a bout in which the Easton assassin looked human. In this reality, Witherspoon won the decision, and Larry raises hell, claiming it was a fix. Spoon challenges Rocky for the title later in the year in a competitive back and forth, which pushes both men to the limit. Rocky ultimately wins a unanimous decision, and both men walk away from the fight with the respect of the boxing world. Rocky appears to be defying Father Time, and questions swirl on if he's better than Apollo, at the King of Sting's own style. Apollo takes note and reminds Rocky again that he still owes him a big favor. Once again, Rocky retorts,
What favor?
Larry Holmes wages a promotional war, accusing Rocky of ducking him and taking on his leftovers. Larry also shames the sanctioning bodies for allowing Rocky to bypass him as a challenger. This does him no favors, as you can imagine. In 1984, Apollo once again challenges Rocky, this time to return to his original fighting style and defend his title against the dancing, stinging heavyweight in Greg Page. Rocky turns some heads when he comes out flat-footed, and Page thinks it's his lucky night as he hops on his bike. Balboa's ability to eat punishment proves detrimental to Page as he slows down and is knocked out in the 8th. Larry Holmes captures the new IBF title in a TKO win over James Bone Crusher Smith and demands Rocky fight him by threatening to take the champ to court. It's been a long 7 years for Larry, who is hell-bent on avenging his earlier loss and the seizing of the position he believes he should have had all of these years. He says Rocky was lucky to have caught him before he matured into the fighter he is now. He also states that Rocky is a coward who has been waiting for Larry to exit his prime because he knows Larry would clean his clock any day. The Balboa camp grants Larry's request, citing he was next up anyway for what may be Rocky's final curtain call. Meanwhile, in the amateur world, a Soviet giant defeats Terrell Biggs in a special promotional bout of goodwill before Biggs went on to become a gold medalist. This Soviet also defeated young Lennox Lewis in another amateur bout. If Soviet Russia did not boycott the Olympics this year, word is that this youngster would have captured the gold at super heavyweight. This unknown, of course, is the soon-to-be relevant terror, Ivan Drago. Welcome to 1985. Larry Holmes tunes up for his big fight against Rocky with a shockingly close win over Carl the Truth Williams. Apollo, scouting Larry, now knows Holmes is truly ripe for the picking. Training camp is a monster, with Apollo seemingly trying to one-up Rocky, thus pushing the stallion to match his rival. It yields a Rocky who has once again surpassed his limits. Apollo's final challenge is for Rocky to beat this man, Larry Holmes, who so closely emulates the style of himself and his past rival, Muhammad Ali. To both men's shock, they are visited in camp by the reformed Clubber Lang, who makes amends and shares his testimony with them. He says Rocky was his inspiration to turn his life around back when he was in prison, and thanks Rocky for knocking some sense back into him after he'd become so rage-driven afterward. He reveals he'll be commentating Rocky's fight against Larry Holmes and wishes both he and Apollo luck. When asked what his prediction is before the fight, Clubber Lang states,
Pain.
For Larry Holmes. He's taken Rocky to unify and become the first ever 3-belt unified undisputed heavyweight champion. Larry, meanwhile, does not suffer the shoulder injury he did in reality and enters ready to shock all. You see, it turns out he was playing possum against Carl Williams. Clubber Lang visits both men's corners before the bell. Rocky and Apollo greet him while a bitter Larry turns him away. Guess he still hadn't got over that knockout from back in episode 6. At the bell, Larry turns back the clocks and matches Rocky's dancing and speed to produce a standstill. Blow for blow, jab for jab, taunt for taunt. This is a war on par with those between Rocky and Apollo from years earlier. As the fight goes on and strategies are nullified, Rocky is forced to return to his original style. It's here where he scores a knockdown with a big overhead right after a sudden shift to fighting orthodox right-handed shades of Rocky II. Larry answers, and Rocky swarms to stop him again on his feet, as he did 7 years earlier. Clubber Lang gives the call of the century. That's no paper champion. That's the baddest in the world. A humiliated Holmes takes his L on the chin and commends Rocky, but swears he'll be back. He also hints that he would have won had the fight happened sooner. This event was certainly a September to remember. When questioned on if he will retire, Rocky states that he doesn't know. When alone afterward, Apollo says he's proud of Rocky and thanks him for vindicating the warrior within himself. It's finally time for that favor. Rocky says he thinks he knows what the favor is now. A title shot. Apollo laughs and tells the Italian stallion to go home, rest up, and wait for his call. 2 months later, on November 19th, Paulie's birthday, Rocky and Apollo meet in Mickey's gym alone to have their rubber match we see at the close of Rocky III and in the intro of Rocky IV. There's new context around their dialogue now. When Apollo answers Rocky's question of when he thought to have this rubber match by saying about 3 years ago, he's now referencing the journey they took to beat Clubber Lang. Of course, his loss to Rocky was the spark. When Rocky asks how Apollo will beat him when he's taught him everything he knows, Apollo's answer of almost everything now refers to how Apollo has also been scouting Rocky during these past 3 years. There's nothing he won't expect, because as Apollo said,
You fight great, but I'm a great fighter.
Now, you may expect a big-time battle here, one where Rocky alternates between orthodox and southpaw, or his flat-footed versus dancing style, one where Apollo looks to overcome his hubris and simply outbox Rocky this time around. No blood war here. That last freeze-frame shot where both men throw punches is something akin to Goku and Vegeta clashing the Kamehameha and the Gallic Gun, or Naruto and Sasuke clashing the Rasengan and the Chidori. Beyond the freeze frame, the punches land, and both men crash down. Dazed as ever, they stumble and struggle. As Rocky returns to his feet, he turns to see Apollo already up, extending his glove to help Rocky up. The cloud of that 1 second that Apollo lost by has been vanquished, and he has won the rivalry. He's a warrior who will never change, and he needed that 1 second of his life back. All those challenges for Rocky, and getting him to overthink this big rubber match for such a simple ending. Apollo really is the GOAT. Rocky returns home to celebrate Paulie's birthday that same night, and the events of Rocky IV's original theatrical cut unfold up to Christmas Day. Wow, a lot happened in just over a month in that movie. You had Apollo's death, the training montages, and the war between Rocky and Drago. That all took place between November 19th and December 25th. I guess we'll suspend our belief here. Of course, many years later, Rocky reveals to Adonis Creed that Apollo won the rubber match, and now you know how it went down. And that'll do it. The continuity of Rocky and Apollo sparring between the third and fourth movie was something I wanted to address. If Rocky III was in 1982, how did Rocky get home in 1985 on Paulie's birthday? Maybe they sparred on and off? I don't know. Anyway, next time we'll dive into the timeline between Rocky IV and Rocky V as I attempt to make sense of that mess. Like and subscribe. You can become a member if you'd like special perks or to just support BoxingPedia further. This has been the Charles Jackson, author of the Boxing Encyclopedia, and I'll see you in my next log. Stay frosty and keep punching.